Okay, wonderful. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today for our Monday Healing Steps Facebook Live and the Bridge to Healing community. And if you're new here or tuning in for the first time, I'm Janine Naus, your grief and trauma relief specialist, and I combine my personal experience and professional knowledge to support you in your healing journey. And if you're watching the replay, go ahead and drop a pound replay in the comments. And if you're here with me live, say hello and type pound live. I'd love to know what you're thinking or where you're joining me from today. So before we dive in, I want to thank you for being here. Whether you're listening live or catching the replay later, this space is for you, for the part of you that's tired of questioning your value and ready to feel something different. So today's conversation is about something sacred, something that trauma often tries to steal from us, and that is our self-worth. And I want to begin by naming a question so many survivors carry quietly, often without even realizing it. Am I really worthy? Now, let's look more closely at that question because it doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It often forms slowly, silently, and in the aftermath of pain. And when you've experienced abuse, whether emotional, physical, sexual, or psychological, it doesn't just hurt in the moment, it changes how you see yourself. And it can happen so gradually, so subtly, that you don't even realize your self worth has been quietly dismantled over time. Abuse tells lies, lies like, you're not enough. You don't matter unless you prove yourself. Your needs are too much. You deserve what happened to you. If you've been better, if you've had better, this wouldn't have happened. Even long after the abuse ends, these lies can echo, and you might catch them in your inner critic, and you might feel them when you apologize for things that aren't your fault, overextend yourself in relationships, or doubt your worth when someone else disapproves. And here's why this happens. It's not because you're broken, it's because your body and nervous system were focused on one thing, and that is survival. When you're in the situation where you're repeatedly hurt, ignored, blamed, or controlled, your system adapts to survive. You learn how to stay safe, maybe by being quiet or by caretaking, by overachieving or by disappearing emotionally. And in those adaptations, your own sense of value can get buried. Not because you don't have worth, but because survival doesn't ask, do I feel worthy? It asks, what do I need to do to get through this? And that's why even when the abuse ends, the patterns don't automatically stop. And the trauma may be over, but the impact can stay lodged in your thoughts, your nervous system, and your relationships until it's gently and intentionally untangled. So if you've ever found yourself second guessing your value, feeling like you need to explain your worth, or wondering if you're too much or not enough, you're not alone. It's not a sign of failure. It's a sign that you survived something that told you lies about who you are. You were never the problem. The problem was the pain that tried to convince you otherwise. So let's take a moment to reflect together. Now, have you ever noticed yourself second guessing your value, even in moments where deep down you knew you did nothing wrong? Now, if this resonates, just drop a yes in the comments or a word that describes how that moment felt for you. Okay. Now, you're not alone in that feeling, and what you're experiencing makes so much sense. So, let's talk next about how we can begin to shift this and what it means to reconnect with a sense of worth that doesn't have to be earned, one that already belongs to you. Now, here's something I want you to really take in today. Your worth is not something you have to earn, it's something you get to remember. But trauma can make us forget. When you've been repeatedly devalued, dismissed, or blamed, your nervous system starts looking outside of you for proof that you matter. You wait for someone else to treat you with love so you can finally feel lovable. And you wait for someone to validate your experience so you can finally believe you're enough. And when that validation doesn't come, or worse, when you're met with more silence or harm, it reinforces the lie that something is wrong with you. That's the wound that trauma often creates. It convinces you that your value is up for debate, that it depends on what others say, what you accomplish, or how perfectly you perform. But the truth is, you were born with worth. It may feel buried beneath the years of pain, silence, or self doubt, but it is still there. Reclaiming reclaiming it isn't about proving anything. It's about reconnecting to what was always yours, not through perfection, but through presence. You don't have to hustle for your worth, and you don't have to apologize for taking up space, and you don't have to wait for someone else to treat you like you matter before you start believing it. So, let me share a story from my own life to show you what that process looked like for me, because it didn't happen all at once, and it didn't come from someone else finally seeing me clearly. It started the moment I did. So there was a time in my life when I believed that if I could just be good enough, quiet enough, kind enough, helpful enough, then maybe I'd finally feel lovable. I thought if I did everything right, if I stayed out of the way, if I never caused problems, then someone would see my worth and reflect it back to me. But no matter how much I gave, no matter how much I sacrificed, that feeling of being enough never came. Instead, I felt invisible, unappreciated, drained, and I'll never forget the moment something shifted. It wasn't dramatic, it was quiet, almost unnoticeable. I had just left a conversation where I'd once again ignored my needs to keep the peace. And then sitting alone afterward, I heard this whisper rise up inside me. What if I stopped trying to be lovable and start being loving to myself? Now, that was the beginning, not of perfection, but of presence, of listening to the part of me that had been waiting for me all along. So I began to speak to myself with the same compassion I so freely gave to others. And slowly, gently, I started to remember my worth had never left me. I had only been buried beneath the lies I've been taught to believe. You don't have to wait for someone else to see your value. You don't have to earn your healing. You only have to begin remembering that you are already worthy of it. So let's move now into a simple practice that can help you begin reconnecting with that truth, even when the old stories still feel loud. And this practice, now, now that we've talked about how trauma can disconnect us from our worth and how we begin to remember it, I want to offer you this practice. And it's something that's gentle. It's something simple and something you can come back to anytime you feel that old voice rising up, the one that questions your value. You don't need special tools or a lot of time, just a quiet moment and your presence. Let's do it together now. If it feels safe, place one hand over your heart and then close your eyes or soften your gaze. Beautiful. And then take a slow, steady breath. Inhale and exhale. Now speak softly to yourself, either silently or out loud. I am worthy of kindness. I am worthy of love. I am worthy of healing. Let those words move through you, not as something to strive for, but as something to receive. You don't have to believe them fully right now. Just let them land. Let them plant a seed. This practice isn't about forcing confidence. It's about building a relationship with a part of you that's still sacred and scared, still questioning, still healing, and showing that part of you that you're not abandoning her anymore. Now, you can repeat this anytime when your inner critic gets loud, when you feel unseen in a relationship, when you start to doubt your place in the room, because your worth is not something to earn, it's something to honor, one loving breath at a time. Now, let's turn inward with a journaling prompt to deepen this reflection and help you connect even more tenderly with yourself. I call it honoring the voice within. So before we close, I invite you to create some space for gentle reflection. And this isn't about analyzing or fixing. This is about listening softly, honestly, and without judgment. So here's your prompt for today. What parts of me am I learning to love again? That's what parts of me am I learning to love again? Now, you might write about the version of you that always tried to get it right, or the part of you that stayed silent to feel safe, or the part of you that still gets nervous asking for what she needs. You don't have to have all the answers. Let the words come however they need to. And this is the moment of reconnection between you and you. And if you need more direction, here are a few questions to explore. What would it feel like to believe I'm worthy just as I am? Now go ahead and repeat that. What would it feel like to believe I'm worthy just as I am? Next question is, what old belief about my worth am I ready to let go of? And I'll repeat that again. What old belief about my worth am I ready to let go of? Then the next question is, what truth do I want to tell myself more often? Repeating, what truth do I want to tell myself more often? So let your journal be your soft landing place. And it's a space where your heart has permission to speak. So as we close today, I want to remind you, you were never too much. You were never not enough. Your worth has always been here, whole, sacred, and waiting for you to come home to it. So if this message stirred something in you, if you felt seen or softened or curious about what comes next, I invite you to schedule a free healing connection call with me. Now, this is a 30-minute space just for you, and it's a chance to talk about what you're carrying, to be met with compassion, and to explore one next step in your healing journey together. There's no pressure, no fixing, just presence, just care. And you'll find the link in the comments, and I'd be honored to hold that space with you. So thank you for being here today, and thank you for showing up for yourself. And thank you for remembering you are worthy. You always have been. And I'll see you next time for another healing step session. Until then, be gentle with your heart.